everyone, in this video we will talk about the various learnings from the PFRDA research examination that was conducted yesterday on December 4th and how you can further strategize your preparation for the upcoming SEBI Grade 2023 research stream examination. So the notification is expected by the end of this month, as Sushil sir already mentioned. So you do not have plenty of time. Just start your preparation if you haven't yet started it. So welcome to iExamB. Please subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that you do not miss any update on our upcoming videos. So let me talk about the descriptive English paper that came in the PFRDA phase 2 examination. So there was a précis that you had to write in about 135 words, and the passage which was given was on the employment scenario pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, and the attrition rate, why people leave jobs, and what are the working conditions at job places, and what attracts people to work further. And there was a reading comprehension passage under which you had to attempt 5 questions out of the passage. The passage was on education and philosophy of education, and the views of Aristotle, Socrates and Plato was given in the passage, and several questions were asked as to how the views of Aristotle is different from the views of Socrates, and what were the views of Plato on education and philosophy. And then the third question was on essay. You were given 4 options to write essay, and you have to pick one option and write the essay in about 200 words. So the first option was on education and sustainable development and climate change. Then the second option was on inclusive culture at workplaces. The third option was on microfinance, and the fourth was on history makes the map. So it was pretty as expected, the paper on descriptive English. Now, if you look at the research paper, there were very heavy numerical questions of about 8 and 10 questions were directly numerical based. They were formula based questions on statistics and econometrics portion, as well as macro ISLM question was also there. So you were given a calculator on the screen as well, but still many students found the questions to be very lengthy, and the exam was overall very lengthy. There were numericals as well as statement based type of questions, so you had to read all the 4-5 statements given and choose whether which one of the following is correct or which one of the following is incorrect. So that in that sense the paper was lengthy. However, the concepts were very straightforward. The level of exam was moderate to tough, in the sense that you had to read a lot in the statement based questions, and you had to do the calculation also in the numerical questions that were asked. So in that sense the exam became a moderate to tough level, and there was questions on Cambridge approach, Tobin and Baumol concepts of money demand, which was generally not asked in these examinations, although the syllabus says demand and supply for money. Generally they stick to classical and the Keynesian frameworks, but this time they also gave in the options about the Cambridge, Tobin and Baumol concepts of money demand. So the peripheral topic that was asked. Then there were numericals which were repeated from phase 1 of the PFRDA examination. So what they did was they just changed the values of several numerical questions that were asked in the phase 1 examination. And finance questions were also conceptual in nature, like the instruments of call money market were given, call money. And so these were also direct and conceptual questions. Then there were questions on international economics like IRDA. They had questions on IMF, World Bank, about the functions of these organizations. There was a question on calculation of the corrected mean. You were given the mean of a series. You were also given the number of observations, and you were mentioned that one of the observation was wrongly recorded as correct observation was this. So this was the question that you had to calculate the corrected mean. Then there was another question on calculation of regression coefficient. So you were given the values of standard deviation of x and standard deviation of y, and you were also given the correlation coefficient between x and y, and from this you have to calculate the regression coefficient. So the formula to calculate regression coefficient is r equals to b y x and standard deviation of y divided by standard deviation of x. So plugging in the values, you could easily calculate the regression coefficient. Was a question on IS equation calculation. You were given the consumption function, the investment function, the government expenditures, and so from this you have to calculate the IS equation. So IS is given by where the goods market is in equilibrium. So y equals to c plus I plus g. This is what you had to do to find the IS equation. Then there was another question on Spearman rank correlation. calculation. Here again you were given the summation d square value, the sum of the squares of the differences in ranks, and the number of observations was also given, and from these two you could easily calculate the Spearman rank correlation by using the formula 1 minus 6 summation d square upon n times n square minus 1. This is the formula used to calculate the Spearman rank correlation. Then there was a question on tax multiplier calculation. So here you were given the marginal propensity to consume, which is C. So the tax multiplier is minus C upon 1 minus C. So using this formula, you could easily calculate the tax multiplier and how much would be the change in the government spending. Then the next question was on calculation of equilibrium income. Here again, you were given consumption function, investment function, government expenditure, and from this you had to find the equilibrium income. Then there was a statement-based kind of question on hypothesis testing, that which of the following, is true for hypothesis testing. Like there exists null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. Then the test statistic option was also given, like chi-square, students t, and so on. So several question options were there, and you need to choose that which of the following is true for hypothesis testing. Then there was a question on relationship between sampling error and the sample size. So there is an inverse relationship. If the sample size increases, then the sampling error reduces. There was a question on classical money, how classicals treated money. They used it mainly for transaction purposes. That was their motive, that money is only used for transactionary purpose and it has no other purpose like speculative or precautionary purpose. Then there was a question on the Cambridge classical equation on quantity theory of money. Like Cambridge is the MD equals to K times money demand is a proportion of the nominal income. That this was Cambridge approach. Then classical equation is MV equals to PT. The Fisher equation was given, and you took pick basically that which one is not correct. This kind of question on statement base was there. Then there was a question on government multiplier calculation. So government multiplier is calculated by using the formula 1 upon 1 minus C times 1 minus T. This is the formula used. So T is the tax rate here, C is the marginal propensity to consume. So plugging in the values that were given in the question, you could calculate the government multiplier. Then there was a question on features of monopoly market structure. In the option, it was given that under monopoly and perfect competition, both the firms are price makers. So that was the option which was incorrect. Under perfect competition, the firms are the price takers. Okay? They cannot influence the price in the market. And there were questions on features of oligopoly, which was the following is true for oligopoly. Like, if the firms collude, then that's a feature of collusive oligopoly. The question on calculation of x bar and y bar from two regression equations. So you were given regression equations like y equals to 3x plus 2 and x equals to 9y plus 3. So these are the kind of two equations given. So you had to assume one of them to be regression of y on x and the other to be regression of x on y. Okay, by looking at the regression coefficient from these two equations, because the product of these two regression coefficients has to be less than 1. So accordingly, you had to set one of the equation to be x on y and the other to be on y on x, and by that you get the two regression coefficients, and through this you can easily calculate x bar and y bar, because now you know which is the regression equation of y on x and which one is of x on y. And there was a question on asymmetric information, that which of the following is holds when there is asymmetric information in the model. Then there was a question on money multipliers. There was some statements given that money multiplier is the ratio of reserve money with money supply, or money supply upon reserve money. These kind of statements were mentioned, and you need to pick the right one, that what exactly is money multiplier. So overall, if you look at the whole question paper of economics, so there it was completely conceptual. If your concepts are very, very clear, you can very easily answer all these questions that were asked in the examination. Then there was questions on how graphically mean, medium and mode can be calculated. So if you have very good conceptual understanding, then this paper has been very doable for you. So if not, the SEBI Research examination is upcoming. You should quickly start your preparation. We also have a very good SEBI graded research online course. The new batch is starting from December 5. That is today. So enroll now. A live class schedule can be downloaded from link or given in the description of this video. You can have a look at this schedule. We are starting the introduction class today, and whole schedule for paper 1 and paper 2 is given. You can have a look at that. If you have any other queries, you can also call on this number, or you can also email at this particular email ID. Thank you.